On today's episode, we're going to spend time talking about what it takes to be truly successful in this thing called chiropractic practice and in life. Because there's a lot more to being a great chiropractor than just being able to give a great chiropractic adjustment. There's actions, there's attitudes, and possibly most importantly, being willing to stop, listen, learn, regroup, and move forward. So with that in mind, welcome to another episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and I continue to work in $1 million practice that I built, ran, and sold. I've taught, lectured, and coached our profession, and helped so many chiropractors build the practice and the life of their dreams. And now, I want to help you do the same. So here's today's show. As I said in the introduction, on today's show we're going to talk about being truly successful and what that really takes. One of our upcoming guests, an episode that'll air in a few weeks, talks about there's 3 ingredients to successful practice. He likes to say it's helping people, having fun, and making money. And we'll visit those pieces with him in a few weeks. But on today's show, we're going to talk about what it takes to get where you want to go. And the number one thing that you have to do is set goals. Decide where you want to go, what direction are you going to grow, and then how you're going to get there starts to make perfect sense. One of the things that I've learned in my 30 plus years of being a chiropractor is the ability to watch, to look around, to listen, and learn from people who have been there, who are doing it, and have gotten where I want to go and grow. Or at the very, very least, they're well on their way. Because I believe we all have the opportunity to create the same success, the same wonderful life and lifestyle that anybody else has. Sure, maybe we're dealt different cards in the game of life, and we have to play the hand that we're dealt. But even when you do that, success is right around the corner if you're willing to stop, listen, and learn. And this reminds me of a story that plays out too often and has been repeated too many times in various ways in our chiropractic profession. I call the story The Tale of Two Chiropractors. On a warm spring day, a number of years ago, 2 young men show up at the same chiropractic school. They move in and get settled in their student housing, and at the proper time, on the proper day, they show up in the auditorium for orientation. These 2 young men had never met. They sit through the same speakers, hearing about the opportunity that they're going to have in chiropractic school, the wonderful profession that they'll have the opportunity to enter into, some of the things that they'll learn about from some of the professors they'll have the opportunity to learn from. They also hear about the different clubs, organizations, and opportunities that there are in the community that they can and will quickly become part of. And as the orientation ends and the people are dismissed, the new students, and they begin to walk out of the auditorium, these 2 young men happen to bump into each other and begin a conversation. And they find they have a lot in common. They were both raised in good families with a healthcare background, raised on the same side of the country, and having been brought up with similar beliefs and values. Both had gone to college, gotten a great undergraduate education, and been encouraged by their siblings and parents to enter into the chiropractic profession. And these 2 young men, having such similar backgrounds, quickly became fast friends. When the first day of class arrived, just a day or 2 later, they naturally sat together in class, taking notes, talking about things that made sense and didn't make sense as the professor said them, asking questions, and helping each other complete their notes. As time went by, they went through the classes together, and what they found was that often some of the material made more sense to one of them than the other, and vice versa. And as they sat and studied together for quizzes, exams, and ultimately finals, they helped and made sure that each of them knew the material well enough so they could both get good grades and excel in the chiropractic program. But it wasn't just the academic classes where they worked together. They worked together in the adjusting labs as well to improve their technique, to learn the technique, and continue to improve with the different chiropractic adjustments that were being taught so that each of them could end up being an excellent practitioner. Again, academically they shared these experiences, and socially they shared experiences outside of the classroom as well. Going to school parties, picnics, having a beer together now and again. As with all chiropractic schools, there were multiple opportunities for clubs and organizations. They ended up going to a lot of the same clubs and organizations and becoming involved at similar levels, learning the different skills that are being taught, taking leadership roles in some of the different clubs and organizations, and really excelling in the program. On a regular basis, they would talk about how quickly time was going by. It's another week gone, another month gone, another trimester gone, another year has gone by. And as the time progressed, Part 1 boards were taken, Part 2, and so on all the way up for all of the parts of the board that were being offered at that time. They continued to practice their adjusting skills together, talking about case histories, and as they went through clinic together and had their internship, again, relating the experiences that they were having as they were progressing and becoming doctors. And as time would have it, after the entire program had gone by, several years, they both showed up in cap and gown at the same place, on the same day, sitting in the same auditorium to listen to the speakers, take the chiropractic oath, receive their diplomas, get hooded, turn their tassel, be pronounced a doctor, celebrate with their friends and family and with each other, and go off into the world. And again, staying in touch, they both took an associateship in a surprisingly similar office, having on the surface what appeared to be a similar associateship experience. And as most young doctors experience, they have their time as an associate and they get the itch, I want my own practice. So on a very similar timeline, in slightly different parts of the country, both of these young men opened their own practice. It's a small office with just 1 or 2 adjusting rooms, some physical therapy, a place to do examinations, an x-ray machine, a place to do report of findings. The offices look surprisingly similar in the type of location where the office is, as well as the physical layout of the inside of the office. And while they continued to stay in touch with each other via the phone, they would talk about the experience they were having as they attempted to build their own practices from scratch. And this is where the story starts to take a turn. This is where their paths begin to diverge. Because while one of the doctors progressively is becoming more and more successful, the other hits a plateau and stays barely successful. And yet life goes on. Both of them get into significant relationships, move into houses, and their lives continue on what seems to be a really good path. And the two friends continue to chat with each other by phone from time to time and see each other at seminars, continuing education opportunities, and get together and talk. And while one of the doctors continues doing the same thing that he has been doing day in and day out, having mediocre success and helping patients a few at a time, the other continues to become more successful, learning new things about business and success philosophy and what it takes to continue to grow and learn and change. After a period of time, it becomes obvious that one is becoming much more successful as the other remains stuck in his stuff and not growing and moving forward. The more successful doctor encourages and invites and even offers to pay for to have his friend come with him to practice management seminars, educational opportunities, to talk to doctors who are more successful, growing, learning, and being in a successful environment. Because when you plant yourself in a successful environment, in fertile soil, a beautiful plant has to emerge when cultivated properly. And in spite of the practice differences, it's funny how similar lives can be. Both of them experience significant personal breakups in their relationships. The practices continued, one the same that it was, the other continues to thrive and grow. And the doctor that chose to immerse himself in winning philosophy and success and growth moved on to a new relationship, a wonderful relationship, and continued to have huge successes in his life. The other doctor closed the office, declares bankruptcy, ends up moving out of state and back to the small town that he had originally grown up in, and actually gives up chiropractic practice completely. And years later, when the friends were catching up, the one who was not successful had actually gone on to become a massage therapist. He gave up being a chiropractor and worked as a massage therapist. And what he said is, well, I guess I'm happy, and at least I still get to put my hands on people and help them in some way. And his success-minded friend said, I'm glad you're happy, and it's never too late to build the life that you want, the way that you want, doing things that make you truly deeply happy and as successful as you choose to be. But his friend said, no, my life has gone the way that it's gone, and I think it's just too late for me. And what I'm saying now is, it's never too late. You can always pick up the pieces and take one step forward and become as successful as you want to be. And that's the story of the tale of two chiropractors. Switching gears slightly, I had a patient in the office years ago, wonderful man, barely had a high school education. He and his high school buddy started a business moving dirt. And when this business started, all they had was a pickup truck and a shovel. And they were moving dirt. And the pickup truck and the shovel turned into a dump truck and 2 dump trucks and earth-moving equipment and 18-wheelers and a lot of big, heavy equipment, and became a very, very successful business. Years and years later, and both of these men did incredibly well in business, one of those men was a patient in the office. And we got talking about chiropractic practice and business in general. And what he said to me, with his very gentle country accent and his big heart, he said, Doc, I will tell you something that I've learned. Every day, in every business, there are people who make money and there are people who lose money. And every day, you get to decide which side of that equation you want to be on. And if you decide to be on the making money side enough days in a row, you end up becoming really successful. A similar story comes from a man that I knew who only had an 8th grade education. Wonderful man, worked hard, provided for his family, but didn't have a lot of formal education. And he used to say, if you're driving down the street and you come up to an intersection and you see 3 gas stations on 3 of the 4 corners at that intersection, and the 4th one is a vacant lot, you know what you should do? You should see about building another gas station on that corner right there, because if there's enough business for 3 stations, it can handle a 4th one also. Because the bottom line is, when you talk about being successful, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. In fact, all you have to do, as the saying goes, is match, mirror, plagiarize, and steal the actions. Yes, the actions and the attitudes of anyone who's more successful than you are. And when I say actions, what I'm talking about are the systems and procedures. And if you don't believe me on this, think about a successful business model. Let's think about fast food. Now, I don't eat at fast food restaurants because the quality of the food that they're providing is not the type of diet that I choose to put into my body, but a lot of people do. In fact, an awful lot of people do. And if you walk into any McDonald's, for example, and you walk into any Burger King, for example, And even if you walk into a Taco Bell, for example, these are all fast food restaurants and they serve the type of foods that they serve. Some of them are very, very similar menus. Look at their systems and procedures. They're set up almost identically. Why? Because those systems and procedures work so incredibly well. And by matching and mirroring those systems and procedures, they get very similar results. Sure, the way they cook their hamburgers, the way they cook the beef is a little bit different. Okay, not a problem. In fact, in business, sometimes that's called the USP, the unique selling proposition. It's a flame-grilled burger versus a fried burger, and maybe that matters and maybe it doesn't, but it's a unique position. It differentiates them from the other person, from the competition, so to speak. I don't believe there is competition. For the example that we're using, there's an awful lot of people that want a hamburger for lunch from a fast food restaurant. And if there was only one type of fast food restaurant in town, it's not that everybody would get one from that one place. No, a lot of people would choose to just get something else and do something else instead. But by having two different ones, there's still plenty of people and they're serving up plenty of burgers. That's not a problem. In chiropractic, I also don't think that there's competition. I think your patients are your patients because of the way that you serve them. I think they stick around for a certain number of visits because of what you tell them and the way that you serve them. They refer people to you based on the service that they're receiving. Years ago, I had a wonderful patient named Bill who said to me, "Doc, I want to stop sending people to you because it seems like when I come here, I got to wait longer and longer to be seen." And I thanked Bill for his referrals, and I promised him he wouldn't have to wait, that we'd become more efficient. I didn't speed up as a doctor. We added hands, added another doctor. We added more equipment. We increased the office size. All the things that we talked about on the capacity blocks episode to provide the same great care or even better care in a way that even more people can be helped within our office. And again, that comes from using systems and procedures that have been proven to work, whether it's in your office or borrowing them from some other chiropractor, from a friend, from a colleague, from some other professional organization that's teaching you how to be better and better. So as we begin to round out this episode, the number one thing to do as the successful chiropractor is to decide exactly what it is you want to accomplish. Set the goal. Decide what that really looks like. And once you've set that goal, open your eyes and watch. Look at what's going on in your own office. Look at what's going on in other offices. Listen to what your patients are saying. Listen to what the staff is saying. Listen to what other doctors, your friends, your colleagues, people you meet at seminars, listen to what they're doing. And if something that they're doing is working better, be ready to learn how to improve your practice with those systems and procedures, integrating them in and bringing them back, tweaking them slightly once you've tried it exactly their way. And when you do that, you end up with absolute perfection and your practice grows and you get to help more people while you're having fun and earning a fine living. And that finishes yet another episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. We're now well north of 20 episodes of the show. If you've missed any of them, I'm going to encourage you, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode in the future. And of course, the old episodes are there to listen to whenever you're ready for them. All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.